Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Racing Team Astra Invitational for 2022, as brought to you on the sim racing platform known only as Gran Turismo Sport, the sim racing platform provided on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 consoles by Polyphony Digital in collaboration with Sony Interactive Entertainment. Of course, tonight is the final. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is round number 3. We are at the end of the story, and all roads have led to this, the grand final, in which our final 12 drivers shall be going head-to-head over the course of one race tonight to decide who is going to be our Invitational Champion for 2022. And our times and our schedule for tonight is as follows. Times in GMT, that's Greenwich Mean Time, or UTC. In approximately what will be 15 minutes time, or 14 minutes by the time I finish saying it, we'll be getting underway with qualifying at 7 o'clock this evening, and it'll be a 12-minute qualifying session to determine our grid order for the one and only race, which kicks off at 12 minutes past 7, and that will be an 18-lap race around our elected circuit for tonight's final to see who is going to be our champion come the end of it. In the commentary box, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain of Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and tonight's broadcast is being brought to you in the English spoken language by myself over 2 media platforms. Firstly, you can tune in via the official Twitch stream, that is on my Twitch stream, so that is twitch.tv/TX141. Alternatively, if you are YouTube inclined, you can also tune in via my YouTube channel, and that is Paul Walsh or TX141TX on YouTube. But enough about myself and the broadcasting media for tonight. The more important thing, which you're all salivating over, is who are our drivers. Well, we're going to meet the drivers now. We're going to introduce them one by one. Indeed, we have a huge array of drivers. Now, to give you a bit of background, we started off with 50 plus drivers in round number 1. And with lobbies of 12 drivers each as a minimum, but some being a bit larger. And it was the case that come the end of round number 1, we had to go from just over 50 drivers down to just simply a list of 26 drivers. So we halved the field down from approximately 52 to 26. Then in round number 2, it was the case that only our top 6 finishers in each of the semi-final pools could make their way into the final. So we've gone from 26 to a final 12. 6 from each of the lobbies. There's been no bias towards each of the lobbies. It has been the case that some drivers have had to get through groups of death, others have had straight and linear runs to the finish and everything in between, and well, now they are all here, so let's go through them one by one. So we start off by seeing that our number 1 driver, they're in no particular order here, they're not listed in terms of performance. It is the case we're just picking drivers one by one here. We start off with BBR's Sir Ian, who has made it through to the final, and whilst I personally haven't had the opportunity to see BBR Sir Ian racing, it was the case he's not in the pools that I covered. Alternatively, the semi-final I covered with me covering semi-final B, he was in semi-final A. He has made it to the final, and we're hearing plenty of positive things with regards to Sir Ian's performances, and well, we look forward to seeing what he's able to get up to tonight. We also have GTKRS Jerome, and we're referring to him as Jerome from this point onwards. And again, Jerome, whilst we haven't seen him in any of the lobbies that we've personally covered, it has been the case that Jerome has been right up there competing with the very best over the course of the races so far, and it'll be interesting to see how he performs tonight. We've also got ATK Koketso. We'll be referring to him as Koketso from this point onwards. And it is the case, the driver there featuring the Mercedes AMG Formula 1 team overalls. I wonder if he's a bit of a Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas fan. It is the case that Koketso tonight will be doing his very best, of course, to bring the championship home. And we also have Janali out of our first 4 drivers. And Janali, of course, we saw last time out in semi-final B at Dragon Trail Seaside. And it was the case that Janali bringing the Nissan GTR and really showing what the Nissan GTR is capable of. And I do believe he may be bringing it again tonight. Then we have our next 4 drivers, and we can see here 3 of them being members of Racing Team Astra, RTA, although this is not an RTA exclusive event, that should be said, and it is the case we have Momo87 first and foremost, and Momo87 will be the lobby host for tonight, albeit it will be the case that he is given that right to be able to go racing just like everybody else, and there is no preferential treatment towards what will be Momo. And we have also Stiganator there from RTA, and he'll be alongside, and it is the case that Stiganator and Momo, whilst we haven't seen them in either of the lobbies that we have covered, whether it be in round number 1 or round number 2 in that semi-final, hearing very positive things about the pair of them. But one driver we've heard a lot about and we've seen a lot of is BGR D-Man GT58, we're referring to him as D-Man from this point onwards, and it was the case putting in a stellar performance at Dragon Trail Seaside in semi-final B, coming home, if I remember correctly, in 3rd place, and a great performance, and I can imagine he'll be looking to take it one step further tonight. We also have RTA Safa there. Of course, Safa being in both the lobbies that we covered so far, whether it had been in the quarter-final pools, i.e. it was pool 4, with what was the round number 1, alternatively in the semi-final of round number 2. And it was the case in the semi-final. Safa just about holding in there, finishing P6 in the end and getting in with a comfortable margin over P7. But I think Safa has had to go back to the drawing board and look at what car he picks for tonight, and also on top of that, where his lap times are perhaps lacking compared to some of his peers, because he wasn't quite there at Dragon Trail Seaside compared to the best in the lobby, but it was the case he still made it through. And in our final 4 drivers here, we have Rta Colleen, and again, a driver we're very keen to keep our eyes on. Colleen, a very fast driver, very consistent driver, and right up there. And also Enlar Sebi, we should say, or Sebu as we're going to be referring to him from this point onwards. And it is the case, the Enlar driver, while we haven't seen too much of him so far, we're hearing very positive things. We also have RTA's GMP, and well, we look forward to seeing how the Italian gets on after what was an absolutely stellar performance at Dragon Trail Seaside, and really saw him go quite a high way and finish inside the top 5. And then last but not least, we have Esron 26, who has made his way in from semi-final A, and well, we look forward to seeing what Esron is able to accomplish here at our circuit. Now, you're probably wondering, where are we? Well, if the thumbnails and all the images in the background haven't given it away, we are at the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Stavlo, Belgium, is the region that we're in, and as you can see from the circuit map provided to us here by simracingwiki.com, to whom we're eternally grateful, this circuit consisting of 19 corners, the legendary Belgian circuit, the #1 Belgian circuit. When you say Belgium motor racing, it is the case, everybody will immediately think of Spa-Francorchamps first and foremost. And well, this circuit with its 19 corners ranging all the way from La Source at turn 1 through Rouge and Radiant turns 2 through to 4, the Kemmel Straight that connects them to Lacombe through turns 5, 6 and 7, and then we do have Rivage at turn 8, No Name now known as X at turn 9, Pouron Corner at 10 and 11, 12 and 13 being the Fanges or the Campus Chicane, depending on how you want to name it. And you have turns 14 and 15, sometimes referred to as the Curve Pool Ferrier, other people refer to them as Stavlo 1 and Stavlo 2, and that's what we're referring to them as. Turn 16, the Kink before Blanchimont, turn 17 being Blanchimont Corner, and then the 2 slice corners on the circuit, the Bus Stop Chicane at turns 18 and 19. A whole array of corners around here, 3 very unique sectors, with Sector 1 all being about power and confidence, and then it is okay, Sector 2 all about handling, and Sector 3 being all about judging it on the brakes. But as we do look to our rules here, we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to Carl Oosthuizen, and good evening to you, Carl, and we'll very thank you for that compliment there. And well, it sounds as though you're looking forward to tuning in tonight, and I do believe you may be racing yourself. So as a result, good luck to you, Kyle. As we do see there in the rules, with regards to the general rules, our driver shall be driving Group 3 or GT3 class cars, and our driver shall be running fixed setups as determined by the GT Sport Group 3 balance of performance. So that is the base balance of performance as set by Polyphony Digital. And because it's fixed setups, there is no tuning permitted. Our drivers must run with their default tunes, although they are allowed to tweak the brake bias on the car, also the ABS and the traction, well, not the traction control, my apologies, only the ABS, the anti-lock braking system. They are not allowed to touch the traction control because it's prohibited. And drivers are only permitted to use the racing soft tyre for both qualifying and the feature race, and mechanical damage has been set to heavy, meaning that drivers, if they pick up damage to either the aerodynamics, the suspension, alternatively the engine, they have to either make it home with damage or they've got to come into the pits to repair the car. There's no magical repair work on the car after 20 seconds, unlike light damage. Meanwhile, in the feature race, it should be pointed out, the race start shall be a grid start or full start check, and I do believe the tyre wear and fuel consumption multipliers are both set to 3 tonight. And that's enough about rules and regulations. I know what you're all here for, so let's head to those live pictures and we'll see what cars our drivers are bringing as of tonight. So we can see as we look to RTA Safa first and foremost here, the South African driver, making his way around once again in the Gazoo Racing Toyota Supra Racing Concept 2018 car. And well, let's take you a little bit through the cars as well as we cover each one that's been picked by a driver. The Toyota Supra, it is the FI Manufacturers Champion for 2021 as part of the World Tour, the final World Tour before moving to Gran Turismo Sport, which is only less than a week away. It's just practically a week away now. But it is the case, the Toyota Supra, the Japanese car, whilst it is a concept car, it is an incredibly strong one. It is a jack of all trades, master of none, you could argue, but I would argue, whilst it may not be a master of anything in particular, it does very well and scores extremely high in most regards. If you want straight line speed, this car is right up there. Not the best, but it is quite strong in terms of straight line speed. Straight line acceleration, it does well, although it can suffer from a little bit of turbo lag compared to some of its peers, particularly with regards to launching from a standing start, but that is if you launch with traction control active. If you can nail and balance the RPM banding when you do launch the car and find that sweet spot with the turbo banding as well, well. This car can launch off the line very well indeed. If anybody followed what was the Toyota Gazoo Racing Cup in 2021, you will have seen, in particular in the Oceania region, what amazing hour at that time racing for, if I remember correctly, what was PX7 Phoenix Racing, what it was able to do off the line in the Toyota Supra in terms of launch control in the car, using only the throttle pedal and the turbo band. In this car, if launched correctly, is an absolute monster, but it requires an absolute determined approach to balancing the car. Beyond that, this car does handle very well. One of its hidden strengths is its ability to move through handling sectors quite nicely. It is prone to understeer, however, with increasing speed through corners, particularly in third, fourth and fifth gear corners. This car can suffer from a bit of understeer compared to some of its peers in what is both the front engine rear wheel drive and also the mid engine rear wheel drive class. It's quite well balanced on its tyre wear, albeit its fuel consumption, of course, with its turbo can be a little bit questionable, but in general the car is very strong and should be right up there, and we're expecting the Supra drives to achieve very impressive things. But as we look from Safa, we now come to NLR Cebu Spain, and as we can see here, bringing the Nissan GTR GT3 Schultz, a motorsport machine from 2013, and well, if you're looking at a beast of a machine, another Japanese machine here, but this is the ultimate beast. Nicknamed Godzilla, it used to be the strongest car by far in the balance of performance, but changes over the course of 2020 and 2021 have seen it come from being the strongest car to one of the strongest. Where it was neutered is in terms of its sixth gear. This car used to have everything. Now it is the case, it is a very heavy GT3 car, which means tyre wear comes at a premium. It's also quite thirsty on fuel, albeit fuel saving is very possible with this car, and that is because it has the most punchy turbo of any of the cars in the GT3 class, with the fact that this car can be short shifted very aggressively from second through to fourth gear, and second and third gear are where this car absolutely dominates compared to its peers, which has got so much performance in those gears thanks to its turbo system. And as a result, we're expecting the GTR to be very strong around here, particularly through sector 2. It also has some quite good handling characteristics if the driver is able to compensate for its heavy nature, although with that tyre wear factor it does mean the car becomes quite unsettled and unstable with increasing tyre wear. And also on top of that, because of the limited sixth gear, it means that when this car is in sixth gear, it will lose out in straight line speed races, or in drag races, compared to some of its peers. And we're expecting the run through Blanchimont up towards the bus stop chicane. The GTR may be a little bit vulnerable, and also the run along the Kemmel Straight, but still the GTR a venerable machine, and there's no doubt about that. As we say hello in the Twitch chat to Jerry Race Car Driver, and in the YouTube chat to Weather South Africa. But then we do come over to ATK Kaketso here, who's bringing the Lexus RCF GT3 L3 racing machine from 2017. Now this is a very interesting pick. The Lexus, when you look at GT3 cars according to the balance of performance, isn't really a car many shout home about. It's not really a car that's talked about, but the reason for that is it's a jack of all trades, and much like the Supra, albeit a little bit less strong compared to the Supra. But the one hidden strength about this car, you could argue, is the fact that because it's so middle ground, it can be underestimated. But it's a very comfortable car with increasing tyre wear. It doesn't really feel too much different. The only downside with this car, it does have some quite aggressive fuel consumption if it's not short shifted, and that can catch a driver out. Also, if you are a cockpit driver, although I don't know who runs with cockpit and who runs third person and whatnot views in Gran Turismo Sport in this lobby, it is the case it does have a very, very nasty A-pillar which obstructs the driver's vision. But right now, with only a couple of minutes to go before qualifying, we now introduce SRON 26 in the Honda NSX here. Perhaps one of the ultimate handling cars and the best car in the wet, and very strong around Spa, even in the dry. The downside of the Honda NSX, however, it can chew through its tyres quite aggressively, and also it's quite limited on straight line top speed. But beyond that, the NSX can be very, very handy around Spa in particular, due to its ability to go through direction changes very quickly. And well, we look forward to seeing what SRON is able to do tonight. We also have Colleen in here bringing the Aston Martin V12 Vantage, the ultimate acceleration car here. This is the car that if you want a car to go from 0 to 60, it is the ultimate car with regards to that in the GT3 class. Apart from the Ferrari, of course, from a standing start, but otherwise the Aston Martin has all of the straight line acceleration. The only downside to it is very prone to understeer when it gets on the power, and that can really hurt the car. But I'm sure Colleen will know what he's doing in the car as he gets ready to go. We also have D-Man here bringing the Supra, much like we've seen some of our other drivers. We also have Jerome bringing a GT KRS, Jerome bringing the Supra, and well, we do have GMP in what is the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. John Ali in the Nissan GTR, much like Dragon Trail Seaside. And looking further around, we do have BBR30 in here, bringing the Toyota FT1 Vision Gran Turismo. Now, you love to see this, and the reason I say that is because this is a car that's not really talked about. The Supra normally shines, but the difference is the FT1, whilst it may not be as strong in all regards, it is a very stable car. Plus, on top of that, it has a bit of a straight line speed advantage, it could be argued, over the Supra, something that's a bit underestimated about. The downside of the FT1 is that it can feel at times just a little bit heavy through corners, particularly through medium speed corners and also low speed corners. It's quite good through handling sections, but it just requires a bit of work to get the nose of the car through corners, and that can frustrate a driver or two. But I think the FT1 driver in the hands of, also the FT1 in the hands of Surrey in here, can be in a very good stead. It was only moments away with regards to going qualifying. Any moment now, as we do say hello to Stiganator SA in the YouTube chat, they're saying hello Spartans, all the best out there this evening, give it horns guys. And well, here's the countdown then, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for us to go qualifying. 12 minutes. Who's going to be on pole? Let's find out. Now, as all of our drivers immediately make their way out of the Grand Prix pit lane here and go on to their outlaps, we also say hello in the YouTube chat there to Sir Bottlejob, saying the best variety of cars we've seen in this series so far. Indeed, we've got some fantastic variety here. And just another note as well about the FT1, something we haven't really talked about. The FT1, it does have quite a poor 5th and 6th gear by comparison with some of the cars it can be up against. But if it is in the toe of another car, the FT1 really gains in a slipstream. Although it is no slouch, to be fair, in its higher gears, it is the case it can take a while getting up to that top speed. And well, we can see Sir Ian here parked up and just waiting to go, and we'll decided not to go out here immediately. I think that some of our drivers deciding to give themselves some breathing room out on the circuit whilst they are waiting to go. And as we can see here, it is the case that Momo 87 really the first driver to make his way around right now in the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. Another thing we didn't really talk about with the Aston Martin is the fact the Aston Martin can be quite thirsty on its fuel, particularly if it is using the full RPM range, but there is a nice sweet spot with regards to upshifting early in this car. And I think that right now, as we see Momo making his way down through X corner and heading up towards Pilon, turns 10 and 11, it is the case it'll be gunning it and giving it everything, of course, in this qualifying session. That's a bit of a flash of lights there. I think the Belgian driver knows he's on camera and, well, cheering on to the crowd right now. Indeed, many cheering him on as we see him coming down through Pilon and up towards campus. As we look from him to what is a D-man here, making his way around it in the Supra. In this case, excuse me, the Supra driver here, once again, we're looking to demonstrate the potency of the Toyota as he makes his way on around. And well, we do know that the Toyota really is the car that has a bit of everything, as we said earlier, so we're expecting the Toyotas to be on strong here, but great car variety across the order. But as I say, Coquetzo in the Lexus is going to be one to watch here, because it may be a bit of a sleeper car compared to its peers as it makes its way on around. And well, I'm personally a little bit biased, I'm not going to lie, because I've recently started learning how to drive the Lexus RCF on another sim. I've said, of course, a competition, but we're not here for that. We are here for Gran Turismo Sport. And speaking of what we're here for, let's ride on board with Momo as he takes us around for a fast lap of Spa-Francorchamps, the first flying lap in this qualifying session in the Aston Martin Vantage V12 GT3 machine. So exiting out the final corner, accelerating up through the gearbox to go across the timeline as he upshifts to 4th gear. Gets him ready for La Source here. He'll be going up to 5th gear, or will he stay in 4th? He stays in 4th and brakes about 90 metres from apex and going down to 1st gear, rotating for and immediately getting back on the throttle as soon as he gets the car to bite on the exit, and now charging up towards Uruj and Ready on here. Now he'll be looking to go all in here as carry as much speed as possible through turns 2, 3 and 4. Makes his way in 6th gear here. Will he lift through the right hander? No, flat out all the way up through. Fully committed, 148 hours at the peak, and as he makes his way onto the Kemmel Straight here we're going up into 6th gear and just accelerating up to the maximum speed. And this is where you can see the 6th gear deficit of the Aston Martin, where he's having some difficulty in getting the car all the way up to speed. But 162 miles an hour, brakes down hard going into the com there at the 100 metre board, down to 3rd gear, balancing the throttle as he comes through turns 5 and 6. Now getting back on the throttle before lifting and then punching the throttle through the floor there as he comes through 7, through the apex, and now down into towards Rivage corner, braking down at the start of the entry curve on the left hand side, coming down to 2nd gear, balancing the throttle and getting on the power as soon as he feels the nose tighten for the exit. Now into X here, 3rd gear, just a brief dab of the brakes, throw the car through the corner and get back on the throttle as soon as you feel the car coming off camber and downhill. Now making his way down towards Pilon here, looking to brake at that 50 metre board, in fact just after it, 40 metres from apex, and coming down to 4th gear, and as soon as he clears the turn to apex, flat out here and getting full power down to build up as much speed as possible in the downhill run in towards the campus chicane, into the medium speed chicane here, braking at the 50 metre board, trail braking him from 5th to 3rd, keeping the car nice and tight before putting it in the middle of the road and turning into the 2nd part of the chicane, getting back on the throttle. A little bit of hesitation there, that's cost about a 10th of a second as he brakes down into Stavlo 1 and making his way for the right hander. Sector 2 now complete. GMP as he tries to go flat out here through Stavlo 2. A little bit of a lift there. He just didn't get the car quite settled on turning, having to use a bit of the AstroTurf curve on the inside, on the exit, on the inside run. But as he makes his way out of Stavlo 2 and now through the left-hand kink of 16, coming up towards Blanchimont, and as he goes into the left-hand area, will it be flat out through Blanchimont? We expect so. Everybody should be able to go through here flat on soft tyres and up into 6th gear just before, and now braking into the bus stop chicane. The two slowest corners on the circuit, braking just before the 100 metre board there, about the 115 metre line, throwing the car over the apex to the first part of the bus stop, completing. They're coming down to 1st gear for the final corner, and accelerating across the line. What will it be? It's a 2:15.5 for Momo, but what will D-Man be able to do? I think it's going to be faster. Not quite. It is a 2:15.8. Well, we've had Safa come across the line and already go fastest of everybody so far, but more lap times coming in, and it's Coquetzo so far who strikes first blood, or does he? Or 2:14.711. The Lexus driver here really going all in with Jerome, currently 4.5 tenths down in the Supra, but still plenty of lap time to come. And we've got anybody else right now really putting in a big lap? We see Sir Ian making his way around. What about Gianelli here in the GTR? It's going to be a 2:16.3 for his first lap. I think that might have been a sighting lap. What about Esron here? It is a 2:15.2, putting in provisional P5 of the Honda NSX. And keep your eyes on the Honda NSX. It goes very well here at Spa. It's not the best in terms of the straight line speed deficit, but it does go very well around this Belgian circuit, even if there's rain. But we haven't got rain today, and we're not seeing any rain on the radar as Sir Ian makes his way now down into the braking zone of the bus stop chicane. He'll be the last driver on this opening flying lap, and what will be our qualifying order come the end of the first provisional laps. Here you can see BBR Sir Ian coming across the line, a bit unsettled and a bit of a miss of the apex there going to the bus stop. P9 so far, a 2:16.1, but about 3 more laps to come from all of our drivers as they make their way on through. But Coquetzo currently the fastest on a 2:14.7, 4.5 tenths clear of GT KRS Jerome here, who in the Toyota Supra right now, making his way down out of X corner and heading in towards Pullen. And as he comes on down here, I think Jerome will be more conscious of the fact that he does have the GTR of Sebo Sebi currently only at what is 2.5 hundredths off of him, as we do see the Frenchman here making his way in towards the campus chicane and trying to get a bit of a slipstream off the drivers in front of him, trying to tack into the slipstream there of what I believe is Coquetzo and also another driver just ahead of him as they roll through and up into Stavlo 1, and it's one of the RTA drivers in the blue liveries as they come on through, and I do believe that's GMP who is at the head of this pack of 3 cars, and you can see Sebi down on his previous best so far as they make their way on through. Now, at this point, of course, in this qualifying session, the question you might be asking, how important is... Oh, goodness me, we're going to stop about that for a brief second. I think Safa there getting a little bit close to the back of D-Man. I think trying to give him a little bit of a push along here, trying to say to him, if you could politely get around a little bit faster. As you can see, both of them there really working hard on those front brakes. And with Safa deciding to overtake D-Man, and D-Man having to lift off there. And I think both drivers just tripping over one another. Safa does improve by 3 tenths of this previous best to a 2:14.9. I think Safa at this point may be thinking, if it weren't for the fact that he came up behind D-Man right at the end of the lap there, could he have potentially snatched away provisional pole? Well, that's to be guessed at and to be seen, as now D-Man tucks in behind here, and I think D-Man's going to try and use the slipstream of Safa throughout the lap. But the question I was going to start discussing was, how important is qualifying to the outcome of this race? Well, it's an 18-lap race around here, and 18 laps doesn't sound like much compared to the 25 we did at Dragon Trail Seaside, but given the lap time here is over 2 minutes, you do 18 times 2, that's 36 minutes, put it up to about 38 minutes or so when you add on the rest of the laps, so in fact 40 minutes, plus a pit stop on that. It is the case, this is going to be quite the test of attrition for our drivers in terms of race, and we can see Jerome there having to burn a track limits penalty for cutting track limits at what was the run through Uruge and Radion, and our drivers have to burn their penalties on the Kemmel Straight. It is the case, that is the only designated penalty burning zone in this race. They must burn it on that straight, and if you have a 1 second penalty there, well, that's going to cost you the best part of about 1.5 to 1.75 seconds in terms of the amount of speed you lose, as Sir Ian does improve to a P6 off camera, the Toyota FT1 driver. I think he's decided to leave things quite late, and I like what Ian's done. He's given himself completely clear track, and you can see on the track map in the top right corner of our screen is the fact that he's got nobody near around him. He's not relying on slipstream here. He wants a track which is completely to himself, and as a result, he can keep pushing himself a little bit more each and every lap. The first lap was a 2:16.1. Now he's gained by 8 tenths to a 2:15.3. Could we see the FT1 driver move into the 2:14s? Well, we will shortly find out. But coming back to that question about qualifying and its importance, given the length of the race, plus we are expecting at least 1 pit stop from all of our drivers because tyres will wear down, or it could be the fuel tank. we do think that qualifying can be quite critical around here, but at the same time, strategy is also going to be key. Now, why I say that is because the pit time loss just for a tyre change in of itself around here at Spa, if my memory serves me correctly, is in the region of about 30 seconds. That's right, 3-0. You heard that correctly. And with that in mind, a 30-second pit stop, well, you can choose to go whenever you want. There's no defined pit window in this race. It is the case, if you win early and undercut, that may cause you to gain a number of places. So some drivers will be wary of that, and if they qualify further down the order, they won't see it as a case they can't win. They may just have to think about the long strategy and staying out of the battling. As we hear that RTA's GMP improves to a 2:15.4, Sebi improves to a 2:15.1, Colleen, we just saw cross the line there, improves to a 2:15.6. Only a 10th gain there from Colleen, and it does look as though right now the Aston Martin driver not comfortable with regards to the car and the circuits. We see quite a lot of oversteer there on power coming out of the source, just in case the rear end completely kicking loose, and that shows you the beastly nature of that 6-litre V12 in the front of that Aston Martin. And it is the case, whilst it's a very venerable engine, indeed it's a very successful engine, whether it be in endurance racing or GT3 racing, at the same time Colleen really having to thrash the engine in order to get the most out of the car, and right now just inside the top 10 as he makes his way on down. And I have unfortunately had confirmation RTA Stiganator will not be able to race tonight, so I think he's tuning in and cheering on his teammates all the same, which is a shame because we'd love to have seen Stiganator out on the circuit, but completely understandable. What happens happens, and we wish him all the best. And we can see Gianelli here making his way down the Kimmel Straight once again. The GTR driver here, the lowest in terms of qualifying placement compared to everyone else. The 2:16.1, currently 2.5 tenths of a P10 man, D-man. And we see there, well, Gianelli matching his Sector 1 time very nicely as he makes his way on through. And as he comes charging through at Lecom right now, well, where could the GTR driver really be losing out? Well, let's stay with him because he will be coming to the end of his qualifying lap, and I think in fact that's going to be the final qualifying lap that most drivers do here. I think it may be the case that he's just not comfortable right now with the GTR in qualifying trim, where there's no tyre wear model, there's no fuel consumption model, the car's at its lightest it possibly can be, and that may just simply make the rear end of the car a little bit snap sensitive when he gets on the power, which is something the GTR is very tricky on. It's the fact that because of how strong the turbo of this car is, as soon as you get on that power, you've got to be ready to counter steer the car if you haven't settled the rear end down. Otherwise, the car is just going to come completely loose on you, and that is why it is referred to as Godzilla, because if you can tame the beast, it's fantastic, but otherwise the beast is just going to rain rampant all over your racing as he makes his way through campus here. And very smooth indeed, Gianelli. I think he's bringing this lap together now, and as he comes through Stavlo 1 into Stavlo 2, he'll run very shortly. Sector 2 time, it is almost 2 tenths up on his previous best over the course lap as Sir Ian jumps to the pits. So Sir Ian has decided qualifying is done for him, and Momo improves to a 2:15.4, putting in P8 right now. He stays P8. In fact, he's just improved his overall time, and well, we are only 30 seconds away from this qualifying session being complete. And I think everyone's going to get one more lap in, minus Sir Ian, who jumped to the pit lane. But let's see what Gianelli does here as he comes to the end of this lap, breaking down into the bus stop chicane here, looking composed and very nice there in terms of turning to 18, rolling through the left-hander. D-Man improves to 2:15.7, but it's not enough to move it out of P10. And Gianelli crosses the line. It's not an improvement. Sector 3 is where Gianelli is struggling compared to his peers as he comes on through right now. We have just seen in the chat, well, Sir Ian, it is the case that Jenny Bergstedt in the YouTube chat says hello and saying Sir Ian is my son, and well, that's absolutely lovely to see family tuning in, and that's great. And we can also see a Weza SA there saying Kaketso is my son too, and with a bit of a smiley face there. Well, definitely a massive family cheering on all of our drivers, and where is the case, family members getting involved. That's absolutely fantastic. We do love that. Motorsport is just as much a business as it is with regards to a sport in itself, and also with regards to it's not just a driver's business, but it is a family business, and that is absolutely lovely as we see Koketsu here right now, currently the fastest of everyone by 2 tenths of a second over RTA Safa. And well, how is this going to end in qualifying? I mean, Koketsu really just right now has things hooked up very nicely, but you can imagine one last push could see the table flip as we do see Enlar Sebi here making his way down in the GTR. And it really is the case that the French driver here not having the struggles of his fellow driver in the GTR. It is the case that Sebi enjoying the Japanese machine a bit more, and well, he's also got the Rta Colleen in here. Now, has he timed this right to getting in towards the Rta Colleen? Of course, the slipstream's only 0.75 seconds back of the car on closing, and I think he's just about got this right. He is going to feel a bit of understeer there for his Stavlo 1. We saw him go wide of apex, and in fact he is 2 tenths down there, so he's going to try and gain it all in the final run, but I don't think it's going to be enough here to really see see him improve. But meanwhile, towards the head of the pack, as they make their way through, we can see Momo here on his final lap. What will the Belgian be able to do here at his home circuit? He goes a bit deep into the bus stop. He's currently P8. I'm not sure this is going to be an improvement. He hammers it to the finish line here, and what's it going to be? It's not an improvement. He stays P8, and what about GMP here? He crosses the line. It is an improvement to P6. Does Koketso improve here? It's an improvement from Koketso by a further half a tenth. Koketso absolutely on the ball, and well, can anybody respond? I don't think so. I think that is going to be everything she wrote with regards to this qualifying session. We see Esron on a personal best here, currently P7. Can he move himself a bit further up the order in the NSX? And if he can, the NSX is going to be a tricky car to pass in Sector 2 as the Frenchman comes to the line here, and it's going to be, it's not an improvement, P7 at best. And what about Junali here? Will he be able to get himself off the bottom step? No. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that does mean, well, I know D-Man's making his way around right now, but he's on an outlap because he's come out the pits quite recently. We've also got a driver located elsewhere around the circuit, I think it's parked up, but that does mean that Koketso is your pole position driver, and alongside him will be Safa in the Toyota Supra for the race. With Sir Ian P3, he's parked up there and decided enough's enough, and we can see Jerome here P4, and well, what about elsewhere? Well, in fact, I think D-Man is actually on a lap. My apologies, we did cut away from D-Man briefly. No, he's just coasting to the line here and taking it nice and easy. So D-Man buying himself some time, giving himself a bit of a breather as he comes across that line to complete the qualifying session. And well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the race. So as we pan down to the standing start grid, it's Koketso on the left in the Lexus on pole, with on the right of him Safa in P2 there in the Toyota Supra. So Ian and Jerome behind them on row number 2, Sebi and GMP on row 3, Esron and Momo on row 4. Then we've got Colleen and D-Man on row 5, and then Junali on the final row there in the GTR. We wait for the lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the final of the RTA Invitational 2022 on Gran Turismo Sport as all of our drivers launch off the line and head down towards turn 1. Koketso goes defensive here with Sir Ian looking to the inside, and Safa goes all the way around the outside early here to try and gain the position as all of our drivers make it through. D-Man with a little bit of snap oversteer there on corner exit. He takes to the runoff area. I think there may have been a little bit of latency bound contact with Janali, but they all make their way safely through the opening corner. Uphill they go for the first time of asking them through Arujo and Radion here. All the drivers absolutely committed on cold tyres and all trying to gain an advantage, but there's a time penalty already for Koketso for track limits. He'll have to burn that straight away. Along with GMP, they both feel the pain here, and Safa has bought an early advantage as they make their way down the Kemmel Straight and up towards what is Lake Carmen. You can see here, so he's just able to stay ahead of Colleen as they roll on through, with all of our drivers navigating their way through turns 5 to 7, and as they break their way through, we can see it is the case that Esron here moving up to P5 in the NSX nice and early on, and Esron having a very solid start. To be fair, gifted 2 places with the fact that it was the case that we've had 2 drivers with significant penalties, but at the same time nothing to take away from the Frenchman here who's had a solid start, and that NSX now I think can go to work in being a nuisance through Sector 2 and really hounding Colleen in front of him. But as they make their way through X and up into Pool, and everybody now line astern, they settle into an order quite early here, and I think everybody wanting to stay with the leaders early on in this race. But to be fair, Koketso already down to P7 with that 1 penalty to burn, and that is how costly burning the penalty on the Kemmel Straight is as they come down to campus. Now nobody looking for a move, but you can already see a little bit of a trend here with Sebi having to fall back as we ride on board here with the Nissan GTR driver, and he hasn't quite got the rotation through campus chicane or into Stavlo as he understeers wide. So Ian ahead, and well, that understeer is going to cost him as Colleen gives him a tap on the backside here, but the top 2 being allowed to break away, as we can see Colleen will now trying to use the V12 muscle of that British machine behind the Aston Martin to be able to gain on the GTR we're riding on board with. But I think it's going to be a long run all the way down. They can't towards Blanchimont here, and as they make their way through the left-hander, it is the case they stay as they were, but you can see as they come down the exterior camera here how it is the case we do have a little bit of a peak there from Esron, but nobody looking looking for any major moves. All I say that we've got Jerome, who's ghosted out. I'm not sure what's happened to Jerome. Something has gone very wrong, but that is lap number 1. And after one lap, it's RTA Supra leading by 7/10 of a second ahead of Sir Ian in P2 for BBR. Then we've got Sebu in P3 for NLR, followed by RTA Colleen in P4. Then Esron P5, followed by Momo P6. Then Jerome P7, Koketso P8, Giampi P9, D-Man GT P10. And then last but not least, but staying with the packet, is Jun Ali come the end of the opening lap. They now go on to lap number 2 of 18. And as all the drivers make their way through this time, Safa, well, he's been reeled in a little bit now that Sir Ian has got those tyres up to temperature. This is where the FT1 strikes. It's got this ability to stay with other cars. But speaking of staying with someone, it's the case that right now, Colleen is going for the move, and he's gone round the inside to outside here of Sebi. And then further back, we do have Momo here making the move on Esron as Esron goes defensive. Koketsu as well trying to battle, but we stay with the battle for P5, P6, P7 here as Jerome goes outside to inside to outside, and Esron backs out here in 9. There's no need to fight this early on in the race. Here's the case, let it go, and he'll come back later as Koketsu has got ahead of GMP once again here, and I think GMP putting that pressure on as they roll them down through Rivage. Now as they come down through turn number 8 and head around towards the X corner at this point, named after the famous Jackie X, of course, it is the case that our drivers all now starting to pick off positions here and starting to make their intentions clear. But of course we don't know about strategy. We suspect this race is a one-stop, but we'll have to wait and see if anybody decides to go for a huge undercut, alternatively the inverse overcut as they make their way round and down. And once again, it is right now the case that Koketsu here feeling a lot of pressure from GMP behind him as they come down in towards campus for the second time of asking. But everyone keeping it clean at the moment and nobody really going for anything crazy. Everybody just putting in those little subtle moves, which we'd expect, of course, that drives at this level. A lot of these drivers, of course, top split or second split FIA drivers, right up there, the best of the best in the competition of Gran Turismo Sport over the years, and well, it's been demonstrated here with everyone keeping it as clean as possible. And right now, as they make their way out of Stavilo 2 and up towards Blanchimont once again, you can see the two leaders really have started to break away. It's Sir Ian in particular who is really hounding onto Safa, and meanwhile Colleen now has Sebi behind, who the GTR in that slipstream, its overall weakness in sixth gear is being mitigated by the slipstream, and now Colleen has to worry about going defensive, but I think Sebu decides just to tuck in behind and wait as they come on down. We see Jerome going extremely deep, and as a result losing a bit of time there, but letting the car fly deep and avoiding the back of Momo as they come to the end of lap number 2 and on to lap number 3. But Jerome, well, let's take a look back at what happened to Kara Strome only moments ago. So riding on board here, we saw Jerome was ghosted. Now something happened with Jerome, and remember at the time he was P6. This was on the opening lap. So making his way through Blanchimont here, and then coming into the corner, we ride on board. Was it the case that he had to take some evasive action? Well, on the back there, oh goodness me, I think there was multiple contact, and what Jerome did, he lifted off because there was contact from, I believe it was Momo there, and as a result, Esron was given the space to play with, and then I think Momo gave him the place back a little bit later on, but that explains what exactly happened between all the drivers. No, in fact, it wasn't the case that Momo gave the place back. A place was given, and that was for a penalty being burned. But Koketsu right now going for the move versus Esron as we come back to live pictures into campus, and as they make the way, not through campus, my apologies, coming through Lake Com, and Koketsu getting the move done there in stylistic fashion as he gains another place back after that difficult start, and they make the way down into the corner. You can see here it is the case that GMP also coming past Esron here, and that Honda NSX showing its weakness in sector 1 where it hasn't got the straight line speed, and will right now, I think Esron focusing more on the strategy than he's focusing on one lap advantage as they make the way down and around towards Pulon corner here. Now as they make the way down this time, I think it is the case we are starting to see the field break out into smaller battles with D-Man right now in P10 under pressure from Jun Ali as they roll on down through Pulon corner and head up towards campus. But just up ahead we can see Ian P3 Colleen right now not gaining on Sir Ian, and Sir Ian the fastest man over the first actual proper lap of this race, a 2:16.7, as you can see, excuse me, in the left-hand side of your screen right now, that fastest lap they're being recorded. And it is the case, I think Sir Ian just starting to pull away from Colleen a little bit more lap on lap and keeping that pressure on Safa. But to be fair, I think RTA Safa in the lead of this race will be also having a plan of his own. But we can see these little battles. The top two have broken away. Then it's the battle from P3 to P5, with P5 just looming there large, and that's Momo in the rearview mirror of Sebi. Then we do have a P6, P7 battling here. Jerome under pressure from ATK Koketsu as they come out to left-hander. You see GMP here under pressure from Esron, a little bit further back in the rear of the picture. And as they come down here, nobody able to achieve a move. Everybody has to wait, as we do see the carbon ceramic brake discs there on GMP's Aston Martin, on the front brakes in particular, glowing red hot. That shows you just how much braking force is going into those brakes. The temperature's so high, and brake temperatures could be a factor later on in terms of increasing tyre wear as the drivers make their way down into turn 1 once again. Now, coming into the source at this point, it is the case that if our drivers are thinking of strategy, well, now I think they will be moving more towards thinking about their strategies than just going for overtakes, which will be absolutely critical. But we will wait and see how exactly those strategies are going to play out. But we reckon if it's a one-stop, we'll be seeing the first signs of our one-stoppers, of course, at lap number 9 through, well, yep, lap number 9 or around lap number 9. So we could say lap number 8. Meanwhile, two-stoppers would be lap 6. But I think going for a two-stop here could be very risky, as we do see Sebi here making the move on the inside of what is Colleen, and Colleen not fighting this. I think the two of them, no, they've sort of mutually agreed in a way. They can't afford to fight because Sir Ian and Safa will just break away and it'll become a two-horse race for the win, and that's not what they want. Of course, they'll both want to be on the podium, but they'd rather be on that top step of the podium, because really the only prize is being the winner. It's not being about the third place man right now, as they make their way down through Revanche for the fourth time of asking, and as they come roaring on through. It is the case with this eclectic mix of GT3 cars, we're not seeing this being a one-make event. And of course, our drivers are all told prior to this race you can choose whichever GT3 is available. It is the case we are seeing a good mixture and all the different strengths and weaknesses coming out. Of course, in qualifying, it was the case the Lexus taking pole was perhaps a little bit of a surprise to the system. We said the Lexus was the one to watch, but now we are seeing how the Aston Martins, whilst they made early gains, they are starting to fall back into the pack. The only exception, of course, will be in the fact that Momo has made some gains, and now it is the case he's putting pressure on his fellow Aston Martin driver Colleen and ahead of him. But in return, the GTR, the former Sebi feeling a lot more comfortable, as we do see Esron there just going a little bit wide on the exit of the second part of campus and having to bring the car back under order as they all come roaring on through at Stablo 1 and 2, and now into sector 3 here in the run towards Blanchemont. Now, as they make the way on through, we do look to our leader here, and that is Safa, who right now has the fastest lap of the race. He said it last time out at 2:16.7. It is the case practically matching what Sir Ian accomplished previously, albeit beating it by the what is 100th of a second. That shows you how closely these two are matched in lap time. But you can see in the rear of the picture there, Coquetzo has closed up incredibly fast to the back of Momo here. The Lexus driver is absolutely flying. I think he's flying with vengeance, as we see a bit further back there. Esron looking at the move on GMP. GMP having a very bad time through the bus stop chicanes. They go on to lap 5, but as soon as they get into this acceleration race, that is where GMP is able to break away. The Honda just does not have the acceleration by comparison. As they make the way out of the source, it is the case that from the top to the bottom of this field, it's the case P11 through to P1 separated by only 9 seconds right now. The field's still very close, but we are seeing P1 to P6 breaking away from P7 to P11, and well, with that in mind, as we do see here, is the case that Sebi under a lot of pressure. We ride on board here with the GTR driver as he makes his way down the kill straight. You can see Colleen giving a little bit of a tap there. I think trying to give him a little bit of boost down the straight, doing a little bit of what we like to call bump drafting, and as they make the way, and of course he has to be very gentle with that tap. We see in the rear of your picture there a bit of a battle happening further back, and that is between what is GMP Jerome and also Esron as they make the way on through. And as they come through at Lecom and down towards Rivage, Jerome goes a bit wide there on the exit at Lecom, and Esron's looking for the move on the inside here in the downhill braking zone, and Jerome turns in, but he finds a face full of Honda there, and it's the case that Esron keeping that pressure on at gains P8 here, and Jerome out of sorts as they come out of Rivage and down through X, and Esron now I think trying to unleash a little bit of the race performance pace of the Honda NSX as he makes his way down into the braking zone for Pullman Corner here. I think Esron just settling into this race very nicely, as all of our drivers now really making their way through to the end of the first third of the distance as they come down through Pullman Corner here. And meanwhile, we'll further up the road, we can see it's the case that Colleen in here under pressure from Momo, and well, it's more of a case now. The battle for P4 has kicked off with Coquetzo coming through on the outside to inside versus Momo, and the Lexus driver here sandwiched between the two RTA drivers, both of them the Aston Martins, but the Lexus is absolutely on par right now with them, if not outrunning. We can see that Colleen going a little bit wide, and Coquetzo's going to have a run here down towards Blanchemont Corner. Now, will he be able to carry it all the way around the outside? Colleen, well, if he's going to go too wide here, he's backed out immediately. Colleen's being smart here. He knows there's no point going too wide. He'll need to come back at him into the bus stop chicane. I think Sebi will be breathing a sigh of relief here. That Lexus is coming through like a bullet and battling with the two Aston Martins. But of course, he'll also be thinking, I'm next on the hit list as they make their way through the bus stop chicane here. for the 5th time, and as they come onto lap number 6, right now it's the case Kuketso is flying. Look how close he is to the back of Sebi out of the bus stop. He gained 3/10 of a second in one corner, and as he comes into La Source right now, it is the case he's putting pressure on. He wants this win, and I think he's, oh goodness me, and a bit of a grind off the back there of the French as he came out of La Source. He wanted to get on the power, and that Lexus is flying, but he squeezed to the wall there, and I think it may be the case that both drivers can't actually see one another on circuit if they're grinding like that right now. I think that might be the case. Well, that's what you don't see every day, is two cars launched into the air, and I think these two drivers can't actually see each other on circuit right now, which if so, is very unfortunate. It's something that can happen in Gran Turismo Sport, and we can see here Colleen going around the outside of Kuketso as they come down the Kemmel Straight, and where it's the case the Aston Martin drive here side by side with Kuketso, and well, as they make their way through Lacombe, oh goodness me, and it does look as though Colleen having to back out, and Sebi coming on through as they make the way down and around and down in towards Rivage Corner once again, but Colleen is not giving this up, and as they make the way through Rivage, he's on the inside, and I think he'll have this done as he seals the door shut on corner exit, and well, Colleen, the Greek driver there, he's found a way through. It took a lot of effort, but he's found a way to get P4 as they make the way on down, and you can see just a bit further back, that's Jun Ali, who's gained 2 places off camera, and right now it's closing up towards Esrom. He's got a half-second penalty. That track limit's coming out of Ix to using too much of the AstroTurf to settle the car, and now he'll be kicking himself for that, because he'll have to burn that on the next lap as he takes it down in towards campus. As he makes his way on through here, it is the case that Gianni will, I think, be very annoying. So he's burnt a bit of the penalty there coming through the chicane. Of course, he will be expected to burn half a second's worth of penalty at the Kemmel Straight. So it's the case he can't just burn it over the course of the rest of this lap, and he will be very aware of that. But we look from him to our leaders, and particularly Sir Ian here, P2. 2.3 seconds is now the gap to our leader of Sava here, who is just flying off into the distance. The fastest lap so far, however, from Kuketso in P3. And well, the Lexus driver here, now that he's cleared the battle for P4, he is trying to now go after P2 and P1, and well, I think he's got the pace to get there. How long will it take us? Colleen has to go defensive versus Sebi, but as they make their way through the bus stop chicane once more and bring the first third of this race to an end, it is the case that we are starting to see a change up in the order, and Colleen under huge pressure here with Sebi, Momo and GMP, and also Esron all behind him in this battle for P4. As he breaks down into La Source, you can see Sebi going very deep on the brakes there. He will be able to use the turbo, the GTR, to settle things down. As we see Esron getting a little bit of snap oversteer on corner exit, but immediately now Kalinin trying to break off. And now it's the GTR driver behind who's under pressure from this man here of Momo, who we focus on as the Belgian makes his way up behind the Nissan GTR driver in the run through Rouge and Radion, and all of them committed flat out through there, or as close as possible to flat out. And you can see all in the slipstream of one another as they come on down, but Kalinin here will be under a bit of pressure as we see a little bit of a weave there from the Greek driver. He's allowed to do some weaving on the straight, but not excessive weaving, and it's Sebi goes to the move, last ditch in a lunge to the inside, but it's the case that Kalinin blocks him off there by braking even deeper, and it's a battle on the brakes, and the Aston Martin driver finds a way, and Momo here now really in a bit of a difficult situation. He wants to close up to the battle for P5, but he's also having to look rearwards and battle versus GMP as they make their way through Rivage Corner, and really this is the closest battle on circuit right now, the battle from P4 to P8, and it's 5 drivers all in very close contention here as they make their way down through X Corner. Now as they continue to roll on down, it is the case that we can see, well, right now at the back of this pack, Esron just watching, and it's a good time really for us to start taking a look at some of the telemetry data on our drivers' cars, and you can see here in the case of Esron, for example, fuel tank just under half, and those soft tyres now starting to open up a little bit in terms of tyre wear, and based on that fuel consumption, if we then look to our P7 driver of GMP in a similar situation with both tyres and fuel, I think this is going to be the case that our drivers will need to come in and take on a sliver of fuel, and by the time we get to about lap 11 or 12, those soft tyres will have had it, so there is a huge opportunity for an undercut here, alternatively for drivers to go long, and it's all about who will go first, because we know a fuel tank is not quite going to take them to the end. They'll need to take on probably about 10 to 25% extra fuel depending from car to car, and then it'll be a case of going onto a set of soft tyres, and well, who will be able to switch on those tyres first and foremost, and who is going to be the first one to pull the trigger on the pit stops here, as we do see right now is the case that Sebi looking for the move as it's Colleen, and Colleen turns in, but he finds the GTR there, but Sebi has to try and go inside to outside. As into the pits comes Esron. Esron's decided to go early. Now this is a huge huge undertaking. That's a huge statement from Esron. The fact that he's willing to undercut here at the end of lap 7 in an 18-lap race. As we see it's against Sebi going to the inside there, and he doesn't quite get on the power, and it's the case the Frenchman, I think, is getting frustrated that he can't find a way on through. And now as they make the way down towards Uruj and Radion, it's too wide here with Momo trying to come on through. They're side by side up the hill, and as they come on through, both drivers giving one other space. They both make it through, although Momo there just on the track limits, we believe. Sebi goes to run off here, and Momo lifts off, flashing his lights there in fury about the contact. And as they make their way down the Kemmel Straight here, all 4 drivers continue to battle, and Colleen and under huge pressure here. They're 2 by 2 as they come down to Lake Com. Meanwhile, a bit further back, you can see even more battling occurring. We'll come back to that in a second, but Colleen and holding Sebi to the outside here, and you can see Momo looking for the move on the inside in return, as it's the case that Momo finds his way up into P5, and GMP now down on the inside here in towards Rivage corner, and as they roll them down, GMP going in versus the GTR, and it's the case that the Aston Martin army that RTA have brought with them here have made their way past the GTR, and well, Sebi's race right now, I mean, he'll be absolutely frustrated with it because he's just lost 3 places for the price of 1. Now as they make the way on through, we do look back to the battling that occurred for PA only moments ago. Well, in a similar situation here, we're looking at Jerome. Well, we are looking at Jerome, the French driver here, as he made his way down the Kemmel Straight in the Toyota Supra, had D-Man in the Supra behind him. Now the South African went for the move on the inside here versus Jerome, and as they came down, well, Jerome lost the places to these two, and as they made the way through the right-hander, well, you see D-Man went very deep there and had to bring the car back together at short notice, and Jerome just being caught on the outside there. If he could have gone for the cutback, it would have worked, but D-Man covered it off very well, but that was very close to going wrong for D-Man. But right now, with all of them making the way on through, all eyes of course will be on this man who's just done his pit stop. He's put a lot of fuel in the car, has Esron, and it is the case that with that in mind, he's going all in here to give it his all. And I think I may have underestimated the need to take on a bit of 10 to 25% extra fuel. I think it's actually going to be the case that drivers will be taking on about 40 to 50% more fuel to get themselves to the end of this race as they make the way on through. But as we can see here, Safa holding onto that lead right now by 3.5 seconds, and meanwhile we're into the pits. We have seen somebody else coming in. Sir Ian has been reeled in by Koketsu as Koketsu sets the fastest lap of the race again on that lap, and it is the case that right now the South African driver continuing to fly. But meanwhile into the pits comes Sebu Sebi, who I think his race, he will feel as though he's got to pit because it's all gone wrong. And Janani as well, the 2 GTR drivers both pitting at the same time here, interestingly enough. Now of course they're not racing as part of a team and they're not part of the same esports team as I'm to understand, but both of them in, and well, with that in mind right now, we'll have to wait and see what happens, because it would seem as though the GTR drivers are going for their own part of an undercut here as we are now into lap number 9 of 18, and with GMP here going around the outside of Momo. Will he find it all the way round? Momo I think lifts off there and just lets his fellow RTIE driver tuck back in. I think they're all aware now with the pit stop window open, it is the case that they will not want to fight one another too much, and instead they'll be looking to try and gain lap time from each other by slipstreaming down the straights and just swapping places. And this is how it can sometimes happen. You get these temporary alliances in the racing with regards to where you don't want to fight the guy around you because you're both fighting somebody else much further down or around the circuit, as we see D-Man and Jerome here running nose to tail in their respective Supras as they come out of X corner. But meanwhile, where is Esron, I hear you ask? Well, he has come out ahead of Sebi Sebi, and this is how Esron has gained by simply going 1 lap early here with a huge undercut of a 2-lap undercut versus what is the average midpoint of the race, as we do see Esron here doing everything he can to stay away from Sebi now, who has come out ahead of Janali. We see Janali here right at the back of the field, 5.5 seconds off of P10. As we look back up towards our leader here, Safa, well, we can see that Koketsu has found his way already past Sir Ian, and Sir Ian, in fact, has dropped a long way back. Are we able to catch that back on camera? It's the case we're not able to, and I think given the fact that they'd already traded places by the time they'd exited Campus Chicane, I think the pass may have been made down into Rivage, alternatively into Puon Corner, but it is the case that Sir Ian has lost the position, and Koketsu now your race leading driver in terms of that pace and wanting to go after the race leader of Safa, who peels into the pit, and as he makes his way into the pit lane right now, the pit crew out, Koketsu takes the lead in this race for the first time, and well, can he take that race leading pace and make it work? We'll have to wait and see, as the majority of the field now in, but Koketsu, Sir Ian and Momo all deciding to go 1 lap more. They go on to lap number 10 here, and well, with that in mind, it is the case that they're going to be on a shorter stint towards the end, as we see all the pit crews out and waiting for their drivers, and we are waiting to see where S-Ron comes out in all of this as they make their way on around. And as we can see here, S-Ron making his way down in towards the bus stop chicane, and he was of course battling for P4 when he peeled into the pits. He was right at the back of that battle. Can he jump back into P4 here? It's going to be very close as he makes his way across that timeline. I think Safa's making his way out of the pit, so it is the case that Safa returns. P4, we expect that will equate towards the lead. S-Ron makes his way on through, and S-Ron has gained overall. He's got ahead of Sebi, and look how this has worked out for the GTR driver. The undercut, because coming out the pits now is GMP, Colleen behind him, and it's D-Man ahead of Jerome, although Jerome has lost out to Gianelli here as they make the way along towards Rouge and Radion. And as a result, it is the case the undercut has proven very strong so far, but will it work out later in the race? Of course, when our drivers who pitted early will have more heavily worn tyres, but of course they've got lighter fuel in the cars now, so that tyre wear will not build as rapidly because they are driving a lighter car. But you can see immediately here, Jerome looking to make the pass on Gianelli as they come down towards Lecom, in towards the braking zone they go, and I think this is going to be a classic pass, and it is indeed, as Jerome simply gets the move done, and Gianelli, I don't think has got anything to counter it right now as they come through. Those go look to the outside here through the exit Lecom. You can see Jerome holds position, he takes one of the bollards with him, and Gianelli now making the return here in this battle for P10, and well, don't say it's over yet for Gianelli. He is putting up a fight as they make their way through Rivage corner. He gets the place back here, but now as they come into X corner, they'll have to settle down because it really tapers to one wide through X and down in towards Puon corner. And now looking from them to out the front of the field, we see Kuketsu has broken away from Sir Ian. He's just absolutely flying, Kuketsu, and if we look at the tyre charts, I mean, he might be needing to take quite a bit of fuel into the car here as he makes his run through and he peels into the pits. Sir Ian, meanwhile, also coming on in. And what about Momo? That's the big question now for the RTA driver. Does he come in as Sir Ian with only 6% fuel remaining versus Kuketsu? So it's the case he has bled the fuel tank drive that Toyota FT1. And I think Sir Ian may be dropping back down the order to a degree, given the fact he's going to have to put in some extra fuel compared to his peers. But as our drivers make their way on around right now, it is the case that we can see Safa here making his way up towards the bus stop chicane, and is he going to be able to retake the lead of this race, or will there be a surprise, and that surprise in the form of Kuketsu? We see Safa making his way through the bus stop chicane, and meanwhile, how's it going in the pits? Well, they've just put the tyres onto Kuketsu's car, they're putting the fuel in here, but already Safa across the timing line and making his way in towards La Source, and as he comes through the La Source corner, where is Kuketsu? Will he come out anywhere near? Well, he's making his way out the pit lane now. It is the case that Kuketsu has jumped up into P2, and as he comes out, we can see it's the case that S-Ron jumps into P3 here, and will Sir Ian, with having to take on that extra fuel, has come out in what is effectively P5 for the time being, but he's immediately in the battle with GMP here, and he's got to get himself up to speed, so GMP's going to get ahead, and it's the case that Sir Ian, having to put in an extra 15% fuel or so compared to his peers, has dropped from P2 in the race when the pit stop started, sorry, P3 in the race when the pit stop started, to P6, and he's immediately got to come back here versus GMP, who forces him to have to go the long way round as GMP is held to the inside line there down to Lecom, and as they make their way into the braking zone here, you can see GMP going as defensive as he dares here. He does not want to see that FT1 getting on past as they make their way through Lecom here for the 11th time of asking. All the pit stops complete. Now it's a race to the finish here, and it is the case that right now it is not working out for some drivers, but the one driver here who's really made it work is Kuketsu, and also S-Ron. S-Ron has made a 2-lap undercut work massively, but of course how will that tyre wear come back to haunt him in the final 2 laps of this race? That will be the big question, as the Frenchman right now doing everything he can, I think, to finish on the podium here. And well, he has got a very sturdy rear gunner here. Of course, he won't have asked Sebi to act as his rear gunner, but it is the case that Sebi, I think, is falling backwards towards GMP, and also Sir Ian as they make their way down out Puon and in towards campus once more. And as they roll on down right now, well, you can see how all the battles in the midfield are reigniting, but it's our top 3 who are just simply creeping away time and time again, as right now GMP under huge pressure as we ride on board the Aston Martin driver versus Sir Ian as the BBR driver and the Toyota FT1 right there every time. But as they come onto the straightway here, you can see how Sir Ian in the tow just very gradually gain. It's almost as if he's not moving. It's almost as if he's stuck there, as if he's been photoshopped there. But I can assure you, Sir Ian is going just as fast, if not a little bit faster. But that is where the Aston Martin excels, and only now, when they get into 6th gear through Blanchimont corner, Sir Ian has the speed to go for the move. He looks to the outside. GMP goes defensive. Can Sir Ian go all the way round on the brakes? It's going to be close. Sir Ian has to back out in the end, although he looks at the switchback here. He tries to get the best possible exit out of bus stop to put GMP under pressure into La Source as they go on to lap number 12. But it's Sir Ian is running out of time. And the reason I say that is because Colleen right now is closing at a rapid rate of knots, and in fact he's just past Momo, and Momo just tucking in behind as they both make their way through La Source and on to the rest of the lap as they go on towards Aruj and Radion. But meanwhile, our race contender here of Coquetto in terms of contending for the race lead, well, you can see right now he is only 4 seconds off our leader, but Safa, to be fair, delivering these laps, and I think the RTA driver at this point will feel as though everything is in control. He is absolutely flying, Safa, after what was a difficult performance at Dragon Trail Seaside, where he seemed to literally be looking to come home P6 and just creep in to the final. He has been on fire today. Can anybody stop him? Well, that is the question we'll be asking, as Esron has broken away from Sebi here. He's opened the gap up by a further second, and then it's GMP who will hold off Sir Ian still as they make their way down in towards Rivage corner. Now, as they roll on down this time through the right-hander of Rivage, you can see it is the case that GMP having to do everything in his wisdom here to be able to hold the FT1 driver at bay. And that's the thing about the FT1, it comes alive so well in the races. Although it doesn't have the 1 lap pace, it just becomes a car that you want to push more and more as a driver. And Sir Ian literally giving everything with the Vision Gran Turismo machine as he makes his way down through Pullen corner right now. But GMP seems to have an answer for everything, and when he doesn't have an answer, it's simply put it as defensive as possible and makes Sir Ian go the long way round. And Sir Ian just does not have the ability to complete the move on the outside so far as they come through a campus here. And behind them you can see Momo and Colleen swap places again, and these two just trying to work together to get close to the back of the South African in front of them. And we look from them to a little bit further down the road. We can see D-Man here has found his way past Gianelli, who is ahead of Jerome. And it is the case that really these guys are a bit spaced out at the moment in terms of those overall lap times. But meanwhile, we do look back to Sebi here in P4, and the drivers coming through behind him. We see GMP once again holding off Sir Ian as they make their way in towards the bus stop chicane as they come towards the end of lap number 12. And well, what can we expect in the final few laps of this race right now? Well, I think it is the case we're waiting to see if the ATK Coquetto can close up to RTA Safa in the battle for the lead, and whether Esron falls off the pace in the final couple of laps due to the Honda's tyre wear and the fact that he's gone for a 2-lap undercut. We will see that happen, of course, and well, when it does, well, Coquetto right now, I think he's just given us an answer. That last lap, the fastest lap of the race, a 2:15.9, an absolute monster of a lap. What was Safa's in response? It was from Safa a 2:16.6. Coquetto ripping almost a whole second in the end, 7/10 of a second. And right now, well, that is the message that Coquetto's sending. I think Sector 1, the Supra is stronger than the Lexus, but Sectors 2 and 3, Coquetto just has some magic up his sleeve. And will Esron here falling backwards little by little, but it is the case that he's holding on to a very comfortable P3 right now. Sebi is continuing to be reeled in, but Sir Ian has gone for the move, and he's got ahead of GMP. Now, how did that happen? Well, it was in the run out of Aruj and Radion here and onto the Kemmel straight, and GMP, well, to be fair, this time as they made the way down, it's the case that GMP didn't go defensive. He decided to stay on the outside, and I think GMP expected Sir Ian not to have the leverage on the brakes, but Sir Ian went all in on the brakes there, and I wonder whether he quickly whacked the brake bias to the front brakes as much as possible as we now look back to your live pictures, because for Sir Ian to pull off a move like that, well, he's had to have gone so deep on the brakes there, and the only way, of course, the FT1 does have good brakes, to be fair, versus the Aston Martin, but to go that late on the brakes, he's definitely got to have gone all brake bias towards the front for the move. Of course, that will have taken a huge chunk out of the front tyres, but in return, it's gained the place, and we'll look at this. You can see already, he just needed to get ahead. He's already opened up an advantage of 7/10 of a second as they make their way through campus and in towards Stavlo here, and it's the case of South African driver we expect, if he can run this pace now in clear air and keep GMP behind him, he will be back on the Sebi within the next 2 to 3 laps. He makes his way around, but right now he is running out of time. At the end of this lap, there's only 5 more to go when they go on to lap 14, and well, as the sun is coming down, it is the case, or in fact I think the sun's coming up, correct myself there, it's the case that we'll be seeing whether Sir Ian can get back into P4 as he comes charging on through, and a bit further behind will Colleen and Momo keep exchanging places as if they're exchanging work emails. But it is one of the situations where I think both drivers in the end will, when they get to the last couple of laps, they may start to fight for P7 if they can't get closer to the battle for P5 or P4, because right now they just do not seem to have a way to catch up here as they make their way onto lap number 14. But as they come charging down into La Source here, it's the case we look back up towards our leader, Safa, who, how did he respond to Coquetto's fastest lap that time around? A 2:16.3 for our race leader. What about from Coquetto, the pursuer, a 2:16.2. So Coquetto having a phenomenal lap last time around, but that lap, it is the case, that it was Safa matching Coquetzo, and the gap is not coming down as rapidly. Esron in P3 still peeling away from what is Sebu Sebi, peeling away at a small rate of knots by about 3 to 4 attempts a lap, as we can see Sebu Sebi here just simply not able to catch up to the Frenchman ahead so far, his fellow countryman. And Sir Ian, well, it is the case that Sir Ian has been able to bring that gap down, and it's through this middle sector for Lake Com in particular, where Sir Ian just has an advantage, although he goes a bit wide on the exit. That's going to cost him a bit of time running high on the exit curve of Lake Com, and as they make their way down into Rivage, what can he do under braking here? Can he get the car turned through a lot earlier? And he does indeed. Looks very smooth there from Sir Ian. And as he makes his way through Ix right now, it definitely looks as though the FT1 driver is inching closer, corner after corner. But of course, Sebu Sebi in the GTR will be able to use the grunt in second and third gear of that twin turbo mechanism inside Godzilla, the GTR, to be able to break away under acceleration. And as they make their way down towards campus here, well, the two are oscillating in terms of lap times right now. And as they come through, well, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, GMP here staying with Sir Ian this time around, and I think it's the case that GMP now deciding he's going to try and stay with Sir Ian and get into that fight for P4 right at the end as they roll them through Stavlo 1 and head up towards Stavlo 2 for the full team time of asking. We're looking from them, so a bit further back, D-Man here in P9 with Jun Ali P10. D-Man closing up to Colleen a little bit, and Jun Ali being closed up by Jerome as he runs a little bit wide there, does Jun Ali. And, well, it is the case that GT KRS Jerome just inching a bit closer, lap on lap, about a tenth to 2 tenths a lap. And will he be there come the finish? Well, it's anybody's guess. As meanwhile, we see Safa here making his way onto lap number 15. 4 more to go here. That crown is inching ever closer, but I can tell you what else is inching ever closer. It is a black and red Lexus in the Form ATK Coquetzo here. That gap coming down very gradually, but it is coming down at a successful rate of knots as we see Esron picking up a track limits penalty for track limits at the bus stop chicane, and well, he will have to burn the penalty. We think it may have been a 1 second penalty, but he will have to burn that penalty when he gets onto the Kimmel Straight, the equivalent. And could it be the case now as Sebu Sebi has been closed up by Sir Ian? Will Esron be pulled back into this battle and make it a 4-way battle for P3? I think he may be safe if he doesn't give himself another penalty, but we can see Sebi here doing everything in his power to try and keep Sir Ian at bay as they make their way down the Kimmel Straight this time. And well, it is the case that Esron has burnt his penalty, and as they make their way on down, you see that gap already coming down very rapidly indeed. And well, Sebi holding on for now. You see GMP right there as well. It is the case, all 3 drivers rolling together as Momo has re-overtaken Colleen, and they've swapped places once again, but these two trying to just get a little bit closer to GMP as they make their way down towards the Raj corner. And we can see behind D-Man not too far away either as they make their way on through. But we look to our driver in P4, we ride on board here the GTR of NLR Sebu Sebi as they make their way through X, and you can see Sir Ian right there with him. But as soon as they exit out of these second and third gear corners, the GTR just able to open that gap with such an aggressive turbo available. But with that tyre, when we see Sir Ian, they're making a rare mistake, understeering, and then having to deal with the front end being unsettled through the first part of Pillon corner, and it's cost him massively here. He's still in the tow, but he's nowhere near as close as he'd like to be, and perhaps now Sir Ian starting to feel a bit of tyre wear on the front. Perhaps he took a bit too much out of the tyres in trying to get past GMP, and it's the case that GMP will now be looking for the return. We'll have to wait and see as they come through Stavlu 1, but it is the case as they make it. You can see Sir Ian literally fighting the car through the corners. It's not a happy FD1 anymore, and I think that is because of how hard he's had to push. But Sebi, they're pushing hard as well and rolling a little bit wide as they come charging down towards Blanchimont once again. And we look into the chat and we say hello to a good number of you, including Kayla Marwa in what is the YouTube chat there. Also, we say hello to Hi and Rich, also Olivier Deluc, and well, we can see Sir Ian looking for the move here as he looks to the outside, gaining the run out of Blanchimont. Can he go all the way round the outside to inside? He drifts through the apex there, the bus stop, and he gets it done. And it's the case that Sir Ian gets ahead. Now, can he hold on to that P4 come the run down the Kimmel Straight? My goodness, Ian leaving it all to the last minute to go for the move, and as they come down into La Source here, it is the case that Sir Ian has gained the place. Now GMP will immediately go on the offensive, and Momo is right there with them, and look at this, GMP knowing it's his time to strike. He doesn't want that GTR to get back in the battle. GMP wants to get on through, but he tucks in for now. And well, now this is the horrible part for Sir Ian, because he's in this situation whereby he's got two cars behind him, which both will gain on the straights. One of them is fast on the straights, that's the Aston Martin, but they'll both be in the tow here. And look at this, Sebi trying to tuck in, weaving left to right to follow Sir Ian. Sir Ian goes defensive, but not enough, and Sebi looks to the inside and goes as late as possible on the brakes, and he gets it stopped. My goodness, Sebi coming back like a missile, and in return, GMP just not able to go for the move on either of them in the end. Sebi just literally rocketing in, and as they come down into a Rta corner, the battle for P4 is on. It's on in earnest, and my goodness, these guys are not leaving anything out on the table as they make their way through X corner here. And GMP, we've got to feel for the Italian. He's having to watch this. He's simply having to wait for his opportunity. He's not being given a chance to try and go for a move himself as they make their way down through Pawn this time. And Sir Ian now having to look for a way back versus Sebi. He made it work one time, but you can see how GMP now really looking for that move as they make their way through campus. Well, we look from them very briefly, ladies and gentlemen, to up front, and Safa's lead 2.2 seconds with 2.5 laps to go. In fact, less than 2.5, really 2 laps to go come the end of this run. And we can see Keketso closing, but not enough right now to threaten him. And S-Ron, well, S-Ron very comfortably P3 right now. I think that's where he'll be targeting finishing. But now we do look back to where it all kicked off only a moment ago here. We're not on replay, I should tell you. We're back where it all started. And will we see Sir Ian come back again as they come charging on through? Now, as they make their way through a Blodgeport corner, it is the case that we can see Sebi here hold on. But look at Sir Ian in that slipstream. The FT1 just flies. And as they come into the braking zone, he's going to try and do it again. But I think Sebi's going to be wise. As you can see, Sir Ian, he can't find a way all the way around. He has to tuck in and look for the cutback here on the exit of the bus stop. And as they make the way out now onto lap number 17, 2 laps to go. It's the penultimate lap. And Sir Ian literally following in the wheel tracks of Sebi. He knows that he needs to run up through Rouge and Radion to get the move done on Sebi and perhaps do it for all. As we see D-Man there going for the move up the inside of Colleen, who's been falling back towards him. And well, they're going to be side by side in the long run. But as the cameras pan round here, we can see Sebi first making his way up the Rouge and Radion combination. And as they come to the top of the hill, it's now the long run down the Kibble straight here. And who is going to be ahead come the end of this run? We can see Sir Ian immediately pulling out of the tow. He's got the speed, he's got the run, but will GMP come through as well? They make their way down to the braking zone, and you can see the Italian here going for the move versus the Frenchman. And as they make their way through the corner, it's GMP who gets ahead, and Sir Ian has found a way on through as well. So Sebi loses 2 places, but we've still got plenty of over opportunities, and we'll have to wait and find out how it all goes. As D-Man meanwhile has got ahead of Colleen, and in the end he's found a way ahead when all is said and done. And as they make their way in towards Raj right now, it is the case that these two coming together at a spectacular rate or not. And as they make their way through Raj into X, well, we'll have to wait to see if there's any further fighting between them. And also Jun Ali here starting to feel under pressure from Jerome behind. But we look back to that battle for P4, which has been it's been building so much at this point. It's erupting now, and it is the case that Sir Ian's feeling comfortable through this middle sector, but he needs to now campus here, and also Stavlo 1 and Stavlo 2, because if he doesn't, then he is going to have a very fast and furious Italian Aston Martin right behind him as they make their way out of campus and into Stavlo right now. Because as they come charged down to the braking zone here, I think Sir Ian's heart's going to be in his mouth for the simple reason it is the case he's had to battle for that P4 and literally wrestle it from his opponents, but they're not done yet. They are coming back, and as they make their way on towards the run to Blanchimel and up towards the bus stop, here we go once again with GMP right then. You can see now a bit further back how Momo tucking in behind Sebi, but we look to Sir Ian here as they make their way through the left-hander of Blanchimel, a bit high in the apex curve there. He's trying to take as much speed as possible through, but it looks like GMP not close enough to go for a move here, and Sir Ian get it done on the brakes as they come on through. You see Sebi at the rear of the picture having to go defensive versus Momo as the leader's gone on to the final lap, and will the battle for the lead. It's 1.8 seconds between our leaders, and I think Safa's going to have this in the bag unless he makes a mistake on the final lap. Esron here P3, a comfortable P3 right now with that fuel looking low and the tyres hanging in there, and Sir Ian still trying to run away from GMP to bring home P4 on this final lap. The pressure is intense. I think the battle for P6 has taken precedent further back, and it's the case that Sebi and Momo have given up on the battle for P4, but Ian there briefly grazed and the wall turning into Rouge and Radion, and this is where GMP will be able to come at him. as they make their way down the Kimmel Straight this time. So Ian weaves to the inside here. GMP locks into the inside and looks around the outside. It's a long run, and as they make their way into the braking zone for Lecom, they're both going to go as late on the brakes as possible. So Ian stays ahead. What about Momo? Goes around the outside. He understeers a little bit wide, but he holds the inside in towards Lecom. But Sebi comes bound and bound, and as he makes his way through the final part of Lecom, it's the case the Frenchman that comes back at him and takes the position back, and these two not giving in at any point, as meanwhile a bit further back we can see that Colleen has got back ahead of D-Man in the run down towards Lecom, and Janali is holding off what is Jerome right now as they make the way around the final half of this lap as they come through Ix. Well, we look back up towards our leader here, and well, 1.4 seconds is the advantage. It is coming down, but I think Koketso will know if it were not for that penalty right at the start of the race, he would be right there now, and that is what's cost him. It is one penalty right at the beginning, which took him out of the running early. As they make the way on through, I do not think there's going to be any way back. And well, what is there to say about our race leader right now with only Blanchimont and 2 corners to go? Well, he nailed it in qualifying. It was the case he wanted to be on the front row. He got it done. He was P2. And come the end of the open lap with Koketso making that mistake and picking up the penalty, he's the leader. He absolutely nailed it in the initial run on the tyres. He nailed it again coming out of the pits. And now with only 2 corners to go, he navigates the bus stop chicane. And as he makes his way out the final corner, it's RTA Safa from South Africa, who is your RTA Invitational 2022 winner on Gran Turismo Sport, ahead of 80k Koketso in a valiant P2 in the end. And it will be Esron 26 who completes your podium as he runs out of fuel right at the finish line, but he's got enough of an advantage to creep across there. It will be Sir Ian P4 ahead of GMP, and it will be Sebi who comes home P6 ahead of Momo P7, and then Colleen and P8 with a car spinning on the line there. Jerome P9, Janali P10, and then it's Demo spinning the final corner, coming home last but not least. Congratulations to all of our drivers, but a special congratulations to our champion, RTA Safa from South Africa. Well, my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, what a way to wrap up the Invitational. What a final, and so many absolutely superb moments, whether it be at the start with the penalties completely mixing up the order, alternatively the battles through and through. But here are your race results subject to any stewards' inquiries which will happen post-race. It is RTA Safa who is our champion subject to stewards' inquiries there by 1.2 seconds over 80k Koketso there, the Lexus driver, with that one penalty right at the start, seeing him drop from what was the lead of the race all the way down into the midfield, and from that point he had to recover. And to be fair, it was a great recovery drive, but it was just not enough time available for him to put the pressure on Safa, and Safa responded every time Koketso delivered a lap. He wasn't quite as fast, Safa, over a single lap, but he had the pace to match Koketso in the end and keep him at bay. Esron 26 in a superb 2-lap undercut coming home P3 despite running out of fuel just before the finish line. It is the case the Frenchman in the NSX did a superb job to undercut the field and get out of that battle for P3 and simply take P3 to his own. BBR set in P4 in the end with some valiant fight in the FT1 and making those brakes work, and RTA's GMP completing the top 5 then the V12 Vantage, having to muscle his way through in the end and come home behind Sir Ian. Outside of the top 5, NLR's Sebi there in the GTR P6. I think he'll be proud of that given how hard he had to fight for it, with RTA's Momo 87 and RTA's Colleen there in P7, P8. Both of the drivers in the Aston Martin just not quite there in the hunt, and both of them trying to work together in the end, but it didn't work out. GT Karas Jerome P9, Janali P10, and BGR D-Man GT58 completing our finishing order there with a spin right at the finish line in what was a suspected P9 finish, but it wasn't to be. And the fastest lap, well, that went to our second place finisher, 80k Koketso, a 2:15.927 on lap number 12 after his pit stop on fresh soft tyres and less fuel in the car. But my goodness, what an ending to proceedings, ladies and gentlemen. And well, with that, all we can simply say is congratulations to all of our drivers. Congratulations to our champion, RTA Safa. And thank you very much for watching. And if you do want to know more about the Racing Team Astra, why not check them out, and the organising team, of course, behind this series. Why not check them out at their official Facebook page, or alternatively their Instagram, and you can see the links here. That's facebook.com/racing.team.astra, alternatively Instagram.com/racing_team_astra. And on top of that as well, we'd just like to say thank you to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to all of the drivers and the organisers as well. It's been an absolutely fantastic championship from start to finish, and well, we hope to see you all again on Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo 7 less than a week away, and you can be sure once we've now nailed down what exactly Gran Turismo 7 has brought to the table, we will be seeing all of our drivers come back for future events, and I'm sure that Racing Team Astra will be putting on another invitation on Gran Turismo 7 as soon as humanly possible. But from all of us here, whether it be in the broadcasting team, the organising team, or the wider Racing Team Astra community, thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. It is time we bring things to a close, unfortunately. We have to bring the curtain down. And well, with that, we have been Racing Team Astra. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit. And until next time, have a great conclusion to your weekend. Stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.